Hello and welcome to my vlog channel. My name is Jennifer and in today's video I'm going to talk about how my destination wedding planning process is going. I'm just about a few weeks away from actually flying to my destination wedding and I am freaking out in the best way possible. I'm just beyond excited. And if you saw my last video, I talked about how I'm restarting my YouTube channel and it's just at the perfect time because of my wedding. It's such a big, monumental thing to remember, and so I'm going to talk about it because it's the biggest thing happening in my life right now. So before I get into how my wedding planning is going, for those who don't know about Jordan and I or about our story, I'm actually going to start with that first. But if you want to skip my relationship story, how I met Jordan, just go ahead and skip forward where I start talking about my wedding destination planning stuff. And I'll put a timestamp here so that way you can just go to that and then skip all this. Okay, so first, let's go all the way back to 2016. Yeah, that is when I met Jordan. And we met at a resort that we used to work at together. And funny story, I am such a social person. Like, I can say hi to anyone and make easy conversation, and that's just who I am. So with him though, anytime I would see him, he wouldn't say a word to me, and I honestly thought he was just too good for me. Like, he didn't want to say a word to me for whatever reason. Because he never said anything, I never knew what to say to him, and I never knew what he was thinking about me. So I was just like, disregard at all times. Until one day when I went upstairs where he worked at the restaurant department, and I worked downstairs at the pool department. So when I went upstairs, I saw him there, and I didn't really mean to, but out of just me being me, I said to him hi. But I said it in such a weird way. I was like, I said this, just like this. Hi. Like, what? I just said that to him? To this guy who I have a crush on? Like that? What a freaking weirdo. Ooh. Oh yeah, fun fact, Jordan is actually my first boyfriend, like ever. So it's crazy to think that now him and I are married. Like, I can't believe it. But anyways, back to storytelling. I think it helped because that broke the ice, and then he just started talking to me about random things, and I was like, okay, I guess that's all I needed to do is be the one to say something first. So now that we've met and we've exchanged conversations, deep, good conversations, like the first time we hung out together ever, we talked for like 5 hours, and it was the best conversation, and it was just overall a really good feeling. And I knew I wanted to see him more, and he wanted to see me more too, so it was like perfect. So 3 years from that, in March of 2020, Jordan surprised me with a trip to London, and he chose London because that is my favorite place to go and travel to. I love it so much. So this is when he proposed to me, but I honestly didn't know he was going to propose at all, even though there are some very obvious green flags. Like, how did I not see it? But those green flags, if you will, were, first of all, we were going out of the country. Like, who just does that? No one, really. It's not very typical. But for us, we love to travel. We've traveled to other places before, to different countries, and so it was very normal for us. And then he also had a photographer, a professional photographer. And I didn't think anything of it because the previous vacation before this, we had also a professional photographer, which I highly recommend because the photos are amazing, even if you're just on vacation with your family, friends, or an engagement, obviously. Because that's a must. You definitely want to capture those moments. But anyways, we had that before on another vacation, so I didn't think twice about it. We never once went to go try on rings together. Like, I had no clue, no heads up. Honestly, I didn't even pack like a really cute outfit for this proposal, but oh well. So the morning of our engagement, right? So he takes a shot of vodka in our hotel room and I'm like, why did you just take that shot of vodka? And he's like, oh, because I'm just such a serious person. I just want to relax and like look very loose in the photos and not so stiff. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Didn't think much of that. And he just started to act a little funny. We then went to a coffee shop and got some coffee, and he got like the biggest, strongest, no ice, no milk, no nothing in his coffee and just like downed it. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, what was that all about? And then he starts like sweating and doing this thing, like pulling his jacket away from him. And he's like, is it hot or is it just me? And I'm like, we're literally outside. It just got done raining. It's gloomy out and it's kind of windy. I'm a bit cold. I'm not sure how you're hot, but you also just took a shot of vodka and like downed your coffee. So it could be that. Didn't think anything of that either. And then he needed to go and use the restroom because he was just getting so nervous, I think. So sorry, Jordan, but now you guys are really starting to get to know us a little bit more. But then we meet up with the photographer and she's the sweetest, and yeah, Jordan then proposes. Honestly, when he proposed to me, I was in such shock because how he was acting, he was so nervous. And when he started speaking to me and then I realized that he was proposing, like I just blinked because I wasn't expecting it at all. And I didn't know how to react because I just didn't know. So I was in complete stunned shock, feeling emotion, like everything around us went black. It was just him and I. If you were to ask me where we were at that time he proposed to me, at that moment, I would have said like, I don't even know, because I had no clue what was happening. And then it hit me, and then I was just like so happy. And then Jordan tells me on the tube going back to our hotel room to change and hang out for the rest of the day in London, he was like, he was like, you didn't even cry when I proposed to you. And I was like, I honestly was in shock. First of all, I thought he was gonna pass out on me because he was breathing so heavily and awkward because he was so nervous and just emotional all at once. So I thought he was gonna pass out, and then he starts telling me all the reason why he loves me, which honestly, I don't even know what he said, because at that point I pretty much like blacked out and just didn't know what was happening. So then on the tube when he mentioned that, and I started to just realize and think more about like, okay, let this moment settle in because like that just happened. Then I started to cry on the tube, and this Britain dude across from me on the tube, which was kind of empty. It was just him across, and he looks at me and I'm crying, and he's just awkwardly sitting there like. Anyways, okay, so obviously we're doing well because we are planning our wedding. So I have about like 5 topics I'm gonna talk about. So one of them, I'm starting off with why destination wedding? Like why not just do it somewhere locally here? One of the reasons was because Jordan and I love to travel, like I mentioned in the little story time. And we wanted a place that we can go back to and have like a deep meaning, and also be on vacation, and also maybe have like little future kids with us that they can be there and just like have this bonding moment there. And I don't know, like we just thought that had so much more of a special meaning than booking a venue, and that's why we chose destination wedding. For our guest perspective, we wanted them to have a fun vacation memory as well. So thank you to all of those who are going, and I cannot wait to party with all of you guys, girls and kids, everyone who's going. I'm just so excited. Okay, so moving on to the second question here. Where are we going? Sure, it's destination, but where? So we chose Cabo in Mexico because it is the closest to our friends and family, instead of choosing some other place that's a bit further where the flight rates are higher and just makes all the costs go up dramatically. So that's why we are going to Cabo. So fun fact. I have never been to Cabo, never been to the hotel that we booked. So if you are the type of person who needs to be hands-on when you're planning your wedding, I don't think destination weddings are for you. So our third question, how did we find our resort where we're gonna stay? We actually found this place through a travel agent because doing it on our own, looking for places online was just so overwhelming, and I just wanted someone else's help. And we actually went through a company called Journeys, and the girl Kim Goldstein, however you say her name, I don't know. We reached out to her first to talk to us over the phone and kind of get some information about what we're looking for and just go from there. And after researching online their reviews with Journeys from other people who have used them, they had such high ratings and we had a good feeling about the phone conversation, so we're like, let's work with them. And they have been so helpful with answering back to our guests and helping us book out rooms for our guests. And the cool thing about working through them is that our guest had, I think, like a few months, I think 7-8 months or something like that, to pay off their room. So it wasn't like an upfront cost for them. And I think that was so helpful. And our guest also got notified about our destination wedding almost a year out. I think we were just shy of a year. It was like 363 days or 364 days out from our wedding. So I think that's so helpful because it does help for people to plan to take work days off, and if their kids are in school or if they're in school. So I think a year out is a good time frame. So I don't want to say Journeys hasn't been perfect, but from the reviews that we have read, being like up here, and then when we have worked with them, it kind of, in my experience, went down a bit because maybe they were going through a hard time with not enough workers and the pandemic issues, or I don't really know what. I don't know what, because they haven't been perfect as in just responding to our guests. And like example, our guests who have booked rooms would have a question, and then they would email our person, and this person who is in charge of my guest in my group would take like a week or something to respond back to our guest. And I know that's not helpful, especially on our guest part, because if a deadline was coming up for payment, then it's just like, well, what do? They've reached out to someone and asked a question, they haven't heard back. This deadline is approaching very quickly, so I can't say it has been perfect, but I would say that they've been extremely helpful with just taking all the questions, the burdens of my wedding guests. Instead of them asking me and me getting overwhelmed, they're kind of taking on that for me. And I mean, I really couldn't have it any better. So though I'm kind of saying negative things about them, they have been really helpful. And another cool thing about them is that they're helping us with the airline transportation. So they don't book our guests' flights for them. It is our guests' duty to do that. But we send our flight information, and then they take the information and they'll make sure that there is a vehicle waiting for us the time we land at the airport that can take us from the airport to the resort. And I think that is extremely nice to not have to worry about transportation. There's a whole lot of other perks that were included, but again, I can't really talk about that right now because the destination wedding has not happened, and I don't want to say something that's not true. So after the wedding, I will be sure to have a more thorough video with my experiences and more tips about destination weddings. But for now, that's kind of my experience and how it's been going, and I'm gonna move on to the fourth question, which is, what's my favorite part about this wedding preparation, or what I find to be most fun? Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes. They're just underneath this camera. So I wanna say the best thing I find about this process is how easy it has been. I have had zero worries about my guests' rooms, flights, where we're going. Where we're going, it is an all-inclusive resort, so what everyone is paying for is what they're going to get at the resort. So like you don't even have to walk around with money in your pockets because you've already paid for everything there, like the food and the drinks. So it's super cool. But on top of that, there's all of the like wedding decorations and the cake and everything else that comes with wedding planning. And the resort has made it super easy with giving me like a minimal amount of options to choose from, and the less options to choose from, well, it makes it easier. Yeah, that's been my favorite part about wedding planning, and also talking to my wedding coordinator. She is the sweetest. I had a Zoom call with her and I created a visual for her as to what I wanted for my wedding, like with the flowers, the color scheme of the wedding, how I wanted the aisles to look like, the chairs, the decorations, like everything that is included in a wedding. It's just been so easy. It's all online also, so I get to see the photos online through this portal that we have access to, and it's just, everything is done right then and there. We get to see and browse what kind of options we want to add, and of course the more we add, the more pricier it gets, which we have added quite a few things, and we can also pay whatever item that we select. So we just select the most important things for now and paid that off, but the other things that we have added to the cart, like crazy things that we are dreaming about, that's just kind of sitting in the cart. So it helps us plan out what we want, how much to save for, what everything costs, and it's just all right there for us. So yeah, it's been extremely easy, and I adore our wedding coordinator, and I can't wait to speak to her again over another Zoom call and also meet her in person on the big day. Just, I have such great feelings about that day and about her, and yeah, it's amazing. Okay, and then to wrap up this video, I'm going to talk about the last thing, which is not really a question, it's more of a tip, because we didn't really know about this, and some of our guests didn't even know about it, is getting married before the destination wedding. So Jordan and I are technically already legally married, and we told ourselves, like, it's not gonna be the real deal. We're just gonna kind of just go with the flow with this, and it's something we have to do because it's cheaper this way. And technically you can get married in Mexico as a US resident, but there is some crazy things that come with that. Yeah, check it out. Here's what I found. These are some of the requirements for marriage in Mexico. So if you are an American citizen, you will need to have a translator there to pretty much have everything translated from English to Spanish. And then this was interesting, proof of Planned Parenthood lecture, and it has exactly the location of it and some times and how much it costs. But also this right here is a big no for me. Drawing blood, I don't want to do that just to get married. So for those reasons, that is why we got married at the courthouse in the US. Would you do this? Would you do this? I mean, that's quite the experience. So anyways, to avoid all of that, and at the end of the day, everything that you need to legally do to get married in Mexico is actually pretty pricey compared to getting married at the courthouse. So we told ourselves it wasn't gonna be the real deal. The real deal is in Cabo, but we couldn't help ourselves. We actually invited like half of the guests who are going to Cabo. They went to the courthouse wedding, and then afterwards we all went out to a dinner, which was so nice just to have everyone there in one room. And it also helped, I think, the guests because they were mingling and talking with one another. So when they see each other again, all in Cabo, I think it'll be easier for everyone to just kind of hang out and talk because we've already got that done with. I think it'll be a nice reunion in Cabo. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And thank you to those who responded on my Instagram story when I had asked questions about what you wanted me to talk about. Some of your questions were actually in the things that I mentioned. So thank you. So there you have it. Now you know a little bit more about Jordan and I, and when we met, how the engagement happened, and where we are now in our romantic life, which is planning our destination wedding. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see some more videos, check out this one. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!